Hi guys, welcome to another learning electronics repair video. I have three GTX 1070s here that I was going to look at a couple of videos ago and then got completely sidetracked. So let's come back to these and let's see if we can do anything with them. So these all belong to the same customer. He would like me to get one working out of the three if I can, and then the other two I can keep as donors. So they're not all complete. This one has no RAM and no GPU on it. It's just a circuit board basically with other components. This one doesn't start, and this one has a burnt out MOSFET. So let's take the heat sinks off the three of them. We'll have a look to see what we actually have here. We'll see what's on this card, and then let's diagnose the ones that we can do anything with, these two, and let's see if we can get something working. Here we have the one which is basically just the PCB without the RAM and core. Useful for parts, a nice donor. This has, you can see, 6 phases in the VRM here. 8 capacitors, 6 phases. It's not unusual to have more capacitors than you have phases. We can see we have 6 of these chips and 6 coils. Now, these must be dual MOSFETs or MOSFET plus driver included, probably, because there's one per phase. And then we have very much looks like 2 MOSFETs here, high side and low side, plus 1 coil, these 3 capacitors. This is the RAM phase. So that makes sense. The reason I mention it, you'll see in a moment. So this one has 5 phases on the core, and we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 devices. These also have some chips here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I think this effectively has 5 dual MOSFETs and then 5 drivers separately. And then this is where the one is burnt out on the memory phase. So we have 1 driver, 1 dual MOSFET. We can check the part number in a minute. I'm pretty sure it's the same as all these. And then this is the RAM phase. So we can have a quick look under the microscope at this one in a moment. This is the one that doesn't power on. So we have a same or rather similar sort of setup. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6 phases, but I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 devices. There, 7 with this one. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 of these driver chips. And then we have another one for the RAM. So it's like we have one more effectively MOSFET or what they are than we have coils. And I find that a bit odd, to be quite honest, unless these two are single MOSFETs driving this coil. So let's have a look. Look at the one here first. This is the one with the burnt MOSFET. So ZF906, 906, these are all 906, 906, 906, and then 906 again, yeah. So each one must be a dual MOSFET. And we can see the driver here. So we see a port number on it. Okay. Yeah, that's 7J equals 4. This is a rich tech device, I think. I know how to transfer or understand these. So the number before the equal sign is actually the code for the part, and the thing after the equal sign is a date code. Yeah. So if you search for something like rich tech book or rich tech MOSFET driver 02, you should find them. So again, we have the same. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those, and we have 6 coils in total. So that makes sense. Yeah, 1 for the RAM and 5 phases. So that all makes sense. There's I can see like the correct number of chips, if you like. So that's the one with the burnt MOSFETs I mentioned. You can see the damage here. So I'm guessing this dual MOSFET has probably failed. We can test it, and we can see there's a component like a resistor or something come from there. Resistor or capacitor, yeah. But we should be able to change that. But we can measure some resistances around there. Now let's have a quick look at the other one. So this is the one that actually doesn't power up, as he says. So we'll check this one first, I think. But We have these devices E6930. Without looking at the data sheet, it's an AO device, Alpha Omega. 3 of them, 4 of them, 5, 6. One's just mounted sideways. 7, and then the same device on the RAM phase. But in this case, we have 8 of those devices, and we only have 7 coils. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there. These are the drivers again, the same device, 0, 2. Yeah, Rich Tech, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 2 of them there, the same. 5, 6, and then a 7th one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There seems to be like 8 of these things, so I'm not quite sure how the layout of this one is. It doesn't look quite so obvious as the other ones. They all the same device. 0, 2. That's a different one, 7J. Oh, so this is probably a controller. That one is probably a controller chip. It's a different code, yeah. So we actually, in fact, have 7 of those and 7 of the output devices, but only 6 coils. So in actual fact, we have like a slightly unusual number of devices here that I can't, without looking at it more, just quite figure out. But we just keep that in mind. Obviously, it must make sense. I don't think we've been tampering with this thing. So let's make some resistance measurements on this one first. Then we'll try and power it up and make some voltage measurements. So let's see what it's doing. Afterwards, we can look at the one with the burnt MOSFET. Let's start then with the obvious resistance readings. So we have 12 volts coming in. So let's see if it's shorted to ground. That will come to this inductor, I would think, here. There's no short there, and it's probably the underside of here. 31k. I think it's the same place. Yeah, it's the same place. So we don't have a short there. There's another one down here, buck regulators, no short, only 875 ohms. Okay, let's go for the 12 volts coming in down here. No short there. 3.3 volts, 1, 2, 3, fourth one in. No short there. There's another little, could be a buck regulator down here. Well, it could be on the 12 volts. Is that connected to here? Yeah, I thought it was, because there's a current sense resistor here. There's a current sense resistor here, so we can check what current this is drawing, both from the PCIe and from the 8-way. That's nice. What's on the VRAM? Well, 80 ohms looks reasonable enough to me, and on VCore I expect it to be low. That's just saying 0, but it might not actually be 0. We can try on the little Aneng meter, or even on the milliohm meter actually. Let's have a look. If it is 0, obviously we have a short circuit core, but I'm not totally convinced it is 0. So this meter actually has an extra decimal point in resolution, if you like. We can just go to ohms range. We want ohms range now, so this will read to 0.01. Yeah, it's reading a little bit of resistance anyway. Let's see what it's actually reading when we short the leads together. Actually, I think one of these leads isn't very good. I'll just try one of the other ones, so we don't get any results here which confuses. Yeah, try again with these probes. Always make sure your probes are zeroed. Okay, that's reading 0.5. 0.5 of an ohm. What's it actually read on our core? 0.67, 0.65. Yes, I mean that kind of sounds like 0.15 as the actual resistance of the core. While we have this meter in our hands, there's another inductor up here. Just go to it. I have to just go to normal ohms range. When I say normal, I mean auto ranging. There's no short on that one. And I don't see any other inductors on this side. And I don't see any on the other side. There could be somewhere around here, linear voltage regulator. There's one more here. This is probably the PEX voltage, PCIe Express voltage PEX, yeah, which is like the 1 volt rail or 0.9 volts. We come from the side on this one. This should be fairly low, yeah, 58 ohms. That's okay. Did I measure this one? I'm not sure, but we can just check it. This could be the 5 volt or something like that. It reads okay, I think. Okay, so we don't seem to have any short circuits on here. Out of interest, let's see if we can actually measure the core with the milliohm meter. Here's the milliohm meter, just to make sure it's zeroed. Yeah, it's 0. This is the one that I bought to review rather than the one that I built for the channel, but when I finish putting the other one together, we'll start using that. What do we have? We have a not quite stable reading actually. 0.125 of an ohm. That's quite low. That's quite low. What is the processor on this one? Let's have a quick look at the other one as well. So this is a 1070 Ti, this is a 1070. So you'd expect this to read about the same or a bit lower actually, to be quite honest. So we're on the 2 ohms range. Let's have a look what this one says. Is it where we can see it and where we can get to what we want to get to? Okay. Is this about? Yeah, about the same. So we can at least say the cores both read about the same, which is probably a good thing. Yeah. Let's power this up and let's see what voltages we can see. So we'll try it. Just mentioned from the previous video, or the one before the previous video, about these mining adapters, and somebody commented they thought you can't put them in the wrong way round. And that is true in a one-time slot. They will not go in the other way because they're keyed, yeah? They won't go in that way round. But when it comes to the 16-time slot, you can easily put it in the wrong way round. Yeah? And if you do that and switch it on, you will destroy the graphics card. I'm not saying can, you will, yeah, because it will send 3.3 volts into the first PCIe lane, into the GPU, and into the ref clock, the PCIe clock, into the GPU. And that's it, it's gone, yeah. So yes, you can put them in the wrong way round in a 16-way slot. And to prevent that from happening, all they needed to do was to make this PCB a little bit longer. Doesn't even need any connections to the fingers or even any fingers. It just needs to be a bit longer so that it's longer than that slot and it can't go in. Yeah, that's all it needed. Another centimetre of PCB, and then you cannot connect them the wrong way around, which to me is like a ridiculous thing to do, but there you go. Okay, so right way round in the slot. We'll connect it up and let's see what voltage we have on this card. All the VRMs running. We're ready to try, so we'll power it on. And the first thing I'm going to do is check the V-core, the core voltage, because that's the last one that powers up. There's a power on sequence. So basically you get 12 volts, 5 volts, 3.3, 1.8, if the board has 1.8. PEX, which is about 1 volt, and then you'd have VRAM and V-core, and the sequence of those will depend on if it's an AMD or an NVIDIA. This is an NVIDIA, and I believe on these the V-core is the last one that powers up. So we'll go onto ground, we'll switch this on. Does the computer start? Yes. Do we have any V-core? Yes, we have V-core. Okay, so it's powering up. It isn't getting hot yet, but we do have V-core. I'll just switch this off again. I'm going to put it back on. I'm going to check for VRAM. And then I'll see this should be PEX. We can have a quick look around, but because we have V-core, we know really we have all the rest. So power's on again. V-core present. VRAM is present. Yeah, 1 point. VRAM is present and unstable. I hope I haven't got a problem with my test meter. Is this getting warm? No, it's not getting warm, despite the fact it actually has V-core. And that seems unstable as well. I don't trust my test meter is being honest with me. Let me get another one. So if this is telling me the truth, the voltages are not stable. Okay, let's get the fluke meter, see what this tells me. I could have had a bad ground connection, I guess. Switch it on. Go on to ground. What have I got? V-core is not stable. Huh? VRAM is not stable. It's getting a bit warm. PEX is kind of wandering around a bit as well. It's not getting hot. What's on this one? That's stable, so we know the meter is stable. What's this one? 12 volt. 1.8. 12 volt. What's this one? PEX, we know. Okay. So we seem to have, and that's not hot, I mean it's just warmed up a little bit. We seem to have a lot of unstable voltages here, and that's quite unusual. I have to say that's the first time I've come across it. What can be causing that? Well, we can assume the 12 volts coming in is stable. I mean, that's on here. What have we got? This is 2 test meters we've tried. Okay. 12 volts. 12 volts is perfectly stable. Yeah. 5 volts is perfectly stable. Yeah. We took some. Let's get some sense out of this. 1.8 isn't it? 1.8 is, it's close, but it is moving a little bit. PEX moving around a little bit. VRAM moving around. Yeah. Cool. Moving around. That's the first time I've seen that, I have to say. Why would the VRMs not have a stable output? Well, it's nothing to do with current draw. I mean, this is just a bit warm, it's not hot. And anyway, if it was drawing that sort of current off some VRM to make the whole thing a bit unstable, you'd expect it to, like, well, blow something somewhere. Yeah, it isn't doing. Let's have a look. We'll put a fan on it. I'll just stick something on it, and let's see if we can detect the card on Linux and see if it actually sees the cards there. Okay, and you can see that in actual fact it's telling me there are no active NVIDIA devices to test, so it's definitely not seeing that it's there. That doesn't surprise me actually, considering those unstable voltages and the fact it didn't seem to be drawing much power. So let's have a look again. So we can just go on to our card. So this was the V core, and interestingly now it's actually stabilised at 0.769. It isn't moving very much. And that's your RAM at 1.4. Now, this voltage on V-core is actually controlled by the GPU. The GPU can select its own core voltage. And I've got a feeling it can probably change the RAM voltage as well, actually. I don't know about the PCI voltage, whether it can affect that. But they're all fairly stable. So we know that the GPU has got power. The voltage seems to have pretty much stabilised now for whatever reason. But it isn't working, it's not detecting. So we need to check a few things now as well. So one of them is to check all the PCIe lanes and the ref clock to make sure We don't have any problems there. We can effectively measure it in diode mode, and that'll find hopefully any problems on there with the PCIe interface. And then the other one is to check the BIOS on the chip select pin, so we can see whether our GPU actually attempts to read the BIOS. If it does attempt to read the BIOS, I suggest the next thing we do is reprogram the BIOS. But let's have a look first at the PCIe lanes on here and see if we can see any problems. We know all the interface of the PCIe reads okay. We've got this thing going on where the voltages to me are unstable. Now, as I mentioned, the GPU could effectively be changing the V-core voltage and possibly this one. I don't know about the PEX though. Let's have a look to see if our GPU is actually trying to access the BIOS. So this is the BIOS chip. Pin 1, which is the one with a little dot there, pin 1 is the chip select. So normally this would be high, and then you would get a pulse going low if the GPU is trying to read the EEPROM. In other words, read the BIOS. So let's get the scope and let's have a look to see if it's doing that. Here's the scope. I normally use the analog one unless I need the storage scope facility, because it's just the easiest one to use. Yeah, much easier user interface. That's why I tend to grab the analog scope. So let's have a look what's happening on the chip select to our BIOS. I'll just connect to there. I've got ground attached to the scope. What's it doing? Well, we'll have to turn the power supply on. Now we can see what it's doing. Oh, well, it's doing something. But that doesn't look right. Oh, see? Oh, it's got like a messy signal on that. That looks not good. So this definitely looks not quite right to me. Let's have another look. Yeah, you shouldn't have that on the chip select. It's on the power pin. You shouldn't have that on the power pin either. Okay. That is supposed to be our 1.8 volt supply, which is bringing me back again to this instability on the power rail. So we know 5 volt is stable on the meter. Let's look on the scope as well. So this is 5 volts. Okay. Set the scope. Power on. It might go off the screen actually. Probably will do. Yeah, just off the screen. I'll just move it down a bit. Okay. Let's have a look now, so it should stay on the screen. So there's our 5 volts and it's stable and clean. And the multimeter said it was stable as well. Switch that off a minute. After that is 1.8, which is over here. What's this doing? And this is the supply to the BIOS chip. That's also 1.8 volts, and that didn't look very good. Let's have a look on the actual inductor. So I'll just get into shot. Yeah, we're here. Yeah, so let's have a look on the inductor for the 1.8 volts. Switch that on. Well, it's a mess. Yeah. Let's just turn the sensitivity up. Sorry, down a little bit. Let's go again. And we have a very messy thing going on there. Now, it's the other side of here, which would be the smooth side. That should be your 1.8 volts. And it's nasty, okay? That's why I got this instability then. So, after 1.8 volts should come PEX, and this didn't look stable. I'm going to go around them all now on the scope. Let's have a look. Switch her on. It's not getting hot. Boot her up. 1.8 doesn't look good. PEX. Other side of it will be the smooth side. Okay. V-core. That's the drive side. That's the smooth side. Oh my god. VRAM. So all of the waveforms are an absolute mess. That's why we've got this instability on the rails. Now, It can't be like a missing capacitor or something like that, because we've got the same problem on every supply rail after 5 volts. And I can only assume, I mean, I've never seen this before, but I can only assume that something wrong with the 1.8 is messing up everything that comes after that. I'm thinking that the driver chips to the VRMs have probably got a 1.8 volt supply, and because that's all over the place, the output's all over the place. That's a supposition, but I think it's a reasonable supposition. So I'm going to go back to the 1.8. That's the first one that's got a problem, and have a look to see if I can figure out where that's coming from. It looks like it should come from here, but I think the chip missing down here. I'll have a look on the board view. I've got a board view for a similar one, not this actual one. Let's see what the board view says. Okay, here's our board view. This is the 1.8 volt supply. I notice there's a large capacitor here, which is 330 microfarads that appears to be missing on our board. But I'll have a look at the other boards as well. If it's missing on the other boards, then that is probably quite normal. I can't imagine they'll all be missing. This is the inductor coil, and this U18 is the 1.8 volt supply, I believe. Coming from here, yeah. It says info 0.8 volts, but I think this is actually the 1.8 volt supply because it's connecting to the coil. We know that it's definitely 1.8, and that coil connects to this chip. But that chip is not present on our board, so our board must be getting it from somewhere else. Is there another L20? No. Oh, we are U501. Where's that? Ah, that's on the other side of the board. It says 0.8 volts again, but I'm pretty sure this is the actual. Oh yeah, then it says power supply 1.8 boot, 1.8 enable, 1.8 VCC, 1.8 SW. Whatever this chip is, it's got phase. This is probably what's driving the inductor for the 1.8. Let's have a look on our board. This is the inductor coil, the 1.8, and this goes to, yeah, here. This is a chip that's missing. I'm not sure what that chip actually is. And according to the board view, I'll just disconnect the board. According to the board view, it is driven by this chip under here, U501. So let's just check that's the case. We'll go from the inductor coil. And if this inductor coil connects to our U501, that's what's driving it, okay? So inductor coil. Oh, it is. I just had a bad connection against it. Okay, so U501 is driving our 1.8 volts. That's the chip responsible for it. Let's see if we can find the part number and find a data sheet for this. And then I think the first thing I want to check is whether this has a stable power supply coming in. If it has a stable power supply and the output's all over the place, I tend to suspect the chip itself. Let's have a look. There's the chip. That's the maximum magnification on the overhead camera. So we're going to have to use the microscope to get the part number, but we might be able to get the part number from the board view, although it's not an exact board view for this board. It's a similar one. I think it's ASUS, whereas this one is in O3D or EVGA or something like that. Okay, so we know pin 3 is the output that drives the coil. I can just double check that actually. If we just go to the other side, top. Yeah, we can see there it drives the coil. Okay, so that's the output that drives the coil. Bottom. We know then that pin 3 is connecting to our inductor. Where does the power come into this chip? Well, with this hovering over it, I can see, in fact if I go to the port here as well, I can see we have V in on pin 2, ground on pin 4 and VCC on pin 7. Now V in is probably the 12 volts, we can have a look, and VCC is whatever power supply is supplying this chip. What we need to do then is to have a look to see whether we have a stable voltage on pin 2 and on pin 7. While we're also at it, let's have a look at pin 6, which is the enable as well. So 2, 7 a power and pin 6. Let's see what we get. Probably the easiest way for me to do this is to hold the meter probe, and now we might try the scope probe as well, against the pin and then switch it on. It's easier, I think, to do this and reduce the likelihood of slipping. Yeah. So this is pin 7. What do we have? Well, we have 5 volts, and we know 5 volts are stable anyway, because we know where the 5 volt comes from. Okay, just switch it off a moment. So 5 volts are stable. The other one was pin 2, which was probably going to be the 12 volts V in. I'm on there. Let's start it up. Well, that is not right, I don't think. 7 volts on pin 2. What's on pin 6 as well? So this was the enable pin. Okay. That's here. If you want to know you've got a connection, if you switch it to ohms range and you get a reading, you know you've got a connection, yeah? So I'm definitely against it. Let's put it back on again. What have we got? Well, we've got an enable and it's stable. Enable is stable, yeah. So what seems to be wrong here is a problem with pin 7, which is V in. Let's go back onto it again. Now it's reading 10. This is not behaving like you would expect it to, yeah. Let's just try the scope probe, seeing as we're here. I think I'm on there. Switch it on. Well, it's gone off the screen. I need to set the sensitivity. Okay, I've set it to 2 volts per centimetre. Okay. On, start. Well, actually, that looks stable on the scope. 2, 4, 6. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Try it again. It's reading about 10 volts and it's stable. Let's go with the meter again. I would have thought this would be 12, but it is definitely stable. Maybe I had a bad connection when I was using the meter. Let's try it again. Well, it's fairly stable, but I'm not quite sure why it's 10 volts. So the EEPROM again. Now we seem to have a stable voltage. Is the GPU trying to read the EEPROM? Let's have a look. You know, I think it did. Do you see it? So I'll show you again. I'll just set the time base down a bit. Okay. Ready? Switch on. There. Yeah, you saw it then. So it looks like now the GPU is actually reading the EEPROM, the BIOS. For whatever reason that time it didn't do it. Let's go again. Yeah. What's happened now, for no particularly good reason that I can think of, is that if we look at the 1.8 volts, we're ready to power it up. We now have 1.8 volts, and that's as stable as you like, yeah. This is the V core. 0.812, not only is it stable, but it's more, it was like 0.75 before. It's getting a little bit warmer. PEX is now 1.0 stable. And the RAM is 1.5 stable. So it's like something has fixed itself. And I don't really know what. But what we can check is this 10 volt supply we have here. So this is the pin where we're reading the 10 volts. You can see it's connected to a capacitor and 2 resistors here. And they're both 0 ohm resistors. Yeah. So the other side, well, this one comes from 12 volts. It says 12 volts. So that should be a 12 volt supply from what I can figure. This one here, well, 12 volts PEX mix, whatever that is. So let's have a look on the end of this resistor, on both ends in fact, to see what we have there. Here we can see the 1.8 volts buck regulator, and this is where the resistors were. We had this capacitor. This resistor is actually not fitted on our board, and we have this one here, 1034, which says it goes to 12 volts. So let's have a look to see what we have around here now. Do we still have the 10 volt supply? Let's check. So we'll just start it up. I'll just get onto the capacitor. So this is where the supply comes in, and you no doubt want to see the test meter. There we have it. So I'll get again onto the end of this capacitor. We've still got 10 volt supply, or has it now gone to 12 volts? Let's have a look. No, it's still around that. So that comes from this resistor, which looks like a power type resistor to me. 0 ohms, 10.3. We've got 12 volts coming in. Yeah, okay, switch that off. So we've got 12 volts coming in to a 0 ohm resistor, and we've got 10 point something volts coming out of a 0 ohm resistor. So Ohm's law tells us that something here is not right. It can't be that the load is drawing a lot of current. I mean, it's a 0 ohm resistor, so we shouldn't have any voltage drop across it. That's the, well, yeah, that makes sense. Sorry about this camera, one moment. Okay, just calm down. Let's measure the resistance of our resistor. Is it 0 ohms? No, it reads like 228 ohms. Let's go on to the ohms range. That was continuity range. Power's off on the power supply. Well, there you go. So our 0 ohm resistor is a 228 ohm resistor. So we'll get it under the microscope. Okay, so there it is. And that looks a bit, well, not happy to me. So zoom in a bit and let's get the focus. Okay, so there's our 0 ohm resistor. It reads like about 200 ohms, and it's obviously not a happy thing, yeah. So what I'll do is I'll just replace this with a wire link for the moment. I don't have any large resistors like that in 0 ohms as far as I know. And to be quite honest, the reason they use things like 0 ohm resistors is because it's easy for the placing machines to place the component when they're building the board, whereas it's not easy to put a piece of wire in. Yeah, so I'm just going to short that resistor out. Now let's try it again. Okay, let's get a bit of a solder on either end of it. Put a bit of flux on there. Yeah, I got a blob of solder there. Just try to do with the back of the soldering iron on the other end. We can't. Yeah, that was good. And then we'll just take a leg of a resistor, I think. We'll just stick it across it, and then I can cut it off afterwards. I'll just bend it a little bit to make it easy. Okay. So let's solder this on here. It's a bit fiddly getting the other end of it. Okay, I'm pretty sure we can that's got that end. In fact, we've just moved the resistor. In fact, yeah, we've done it. And we've bridged the whole thing with solder, basically. Okay, that should do the job fine. Just chop this off. Close to the resistor. Okay, and clean it up. Okay, that looks fine. Yeah, I can always put one back in. I need to just check actually, because I think I've got that too close now to the component next to it. Yeah, let's have a look. I think it's okay, we'll just check it. There's a continuity. Right, just make sure we don't have a short across here. So from here, that's okay, there's no short there, and there'll be no short to the other end either, I think. Okay, I'm happy enough with that. Let's, yeah, that's this bit, that's this bit. It's now reading 0, yeah? Let's try it. We should have 12 volts on the capacitor now. Let's have a quick look. So we'll just power it up. I'll put onto volts range. And we must have now, surely. Yeah, 12 volts on there. Okay, so that's fixed that problem. Let's check all the other voltages again, and then let's see if it's accessing. Well, in fact, let's see if it's working. V-core is now 699, so it's changed again. Doesn't bleep. What's on RAM? 1.35. That's probably more normal actually. 698 PEX 1, but we're not getting any bleeps out of it. It's not doing anything. GPU is getting warm but not stupidly hot. I mean, I can comfortably put my hand on it. Why didn't get any bleeps out of it? I was getting a bleep before. Let's try again. And we'll put the monitor on. The GPU is definitely getting much warmer than it was before. So let's put a fan on it. I'll also check the 1.8 as well at the same time. Switch it on. Yeah, it's stable. No bleeps, no picture. What I can't quite figure out is why the voltage on here has changed again. Ah! The blue light came on the monitor, and it bleeped, but there's no picture. That's acting like it's got faulty RAM. Takes a long time to come on, and then eventually bleeps and gives a black screen. Let's see if we can detect it in Linux now. Our graphics card is now there. We can see GTX 1070 as device 1. So we've got somewhere. I haven't fixed it, of course. I mean, that'd be asking too much, wouldn't it, really? But I have got somewhere. I probably have to run mods before we can run mats. Let's just go into the folder for the version we want, ls. So we'll go into which one? I think we'll just use this one, 281.2 cd 400.281.2. Oops. Okay. Somebody says I should put the // in front of the mats, even though it works anyway, and it seems to use the right version because it accepts the argument you would expect it to. But / mats. It probably won't run. It probably needs mods to be run first. -N1. That's index 1 for the secondary card. You can see it was 1 in the LSPCI. -E. Let's go for 12 meg. to test. Oops, put space in there. Okay. And he's trying to use the GPU at the moment, so we have to go mods. I think it's, I'll try to remember it. Skip RM state init. Oh, I know what I did wrong. Let's just go again. So I didn't put a space after the N. Yeah, I can see it now. Okay, let's try that. Yeah, now I expected to get that message, and I can actually see now the command that I want. So it's /mods GPU test .js. Then it's the one I thought, minus skip RM state init. Try and find the underscore on this keyboard. Got it. Okay, at last I got it. Skip RM state init minus OQA, I think, for this version. OQA. That'll probably just say fail. That's what you expect it to do. Yeah, now let's try run maths and see if it's a RAM problem. That fail there doesn't really mean anything particular. Minus N1 minus E12. Yeah. Put the dot slash as well because I've been told to do it. Dot slash. Okay, let's see. I think this has some serious RAM problem. The fact it's kind of hung up and taking a very long time, it makes me think there's actually in fact a lot of RAM errors. Okay, and in fact it did fail with a lot of errors. Took a couple of minutes or so. Let's run that again and try and pipe that into the less command and see if we can find a bit more information. Because it just scrolled up the screen so fast I couldn't really see anything. So pipe, can we find the key? I found it before, so it's there, yeah. Less. Okay, let's run it again. And once again, I'll pause the recording. Well, you can see we've got lots of problems. Yeah, there we go. So we seem to have errors on bank D1 here in particular. So it looks like RAM chip D1 is faulty. We've got another quite a bit of stuff here. Hopefully somebody can tell me how to actually understand that, but from what this is telling me is D1 RAM chip is failing. So have I got another RAM chip of the same type to change this with? Let me have a look. Figuring out which RAM chip is D1, if you didn't know, is quite easy. So this is an NVIDIA card, and with NVIDIA now, and then I'll also tell you with AMD as well. Yeah, but with NVIDIA, from pin 1, which is this corner marked, you come diagonally across, and you start from here, and it goes in a slightly back to front order. So it goes A1 A0, B1 B0. C1, C0, D1, D0. And this is the chip, according to Matt, that is failing. If it was an AMD card, you do the same thing, start from pin 1, come diagonally opposite. But on AMD, it's actually A0, A1, B0, B1, D0, C0, C1, D0, D1. So the 1 and 0 was switched around. So this is the chip which is giving us errors. Now let's have a look under the microscope, see what type of chip this is. Now let's look at the other cards and let's see if we have any of the same type on the donor. This is our RAM chip, so 7BA47 D9TC. I'm guessing that's a P. It's a bit of a funny looking letter. So we've got another one. Oh, okay, so it's like a strange letter that isn't really a letter, yeah. 7BA47. Is that a D? D9 TCB. Oh, that's what it is. And a funny M. Is it Micron or somebody? Let me see if I can find any more of that type on one of the other cards. This is the card with the faulty MOSFET or dual MOSFET most likely on the RAM phase. So I don't really want to take the RAM from here anyway because it's likely it's been damaged or possible because of the fault there. But this is 7TA47, which is actually a different part number. Let's look at the other one. Well, the other one of course has no RAM fitted, so that's no use to us. This is my scrap 1070. Has a different one, 8DA47. I don't know if it's. I mean, this could be a date code. I really don't know, to be quite honest. I'll try to get some of them on AliExpress, but again, that's not the same. Well, guys, you can see I traced and diagnosed the fault on this graphics card, and I think I was very reasonable to expect that would actually work once I fixed it, and of course it doesn't. Yeah, it's the story of my life sometimes. But anyway, it always seems to be graphics cards as well. But we do know now this just needs RAM. By the looks of it, needs a RAM chip. I've looked up this number, couldn't find anything on AliExpress. I am absolutely confident that some of you guys will know what we can stick in there and whether we can put the ones off the other card. Now, the other card is the ones I mentioned with the damaged dual MOSFET there. The RAM reads pretty much okay resistance wise. I'd like to try to fix that one rather than just use it as a donor for the moment, so I'd much prefer to just get some new RAM, especially considering that I had the blown MOSFET on the RAM phase. If the RAM is working, it could well have been damaged or compromised in some way. Might be working now, might not be working next week. Yeah, so I think it's reasonable to try and just get some new. Okay, hope you enjoyed it. Richard found the fault and Richard didn't fix it. Yeah. But that's the way it is sometimes with the electronics. You've just got to, yeah, keep going forwards. Okay guys, I'll see you all soon on another Learning Electronics Repair video. Ciao for now guys.